Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Now, on Sunday, April 12th, Hungary votes in a parliamentary election that could mark the end of Viktor Orbán's long dominance and redefine the country's trajectory in Europe. Now, the campaign's final days have been shaped by reports of alleged communication with Russian officials, urgent calls for explanation from EU institutions, and renewed U.S. political engagement. Now, with opposition leader Péter Magyar gaining ground, polls now point to one of the most competitive elections in modern Hungarian history. And now, to go into the details, we're joined by Eszter Kováts, political scientist at the University of Vienna. Good to have you with us here.
Thank you for the invitation.
So I want to maybe go with history first, a bit of history. 16 years, one of the probably the longest leader in the European Union. Mr. Orbán always says he does a lot right now, but let's go back. How would the ordinary Hungarian feel going to the polls, looking back? Are they better off after 16 years of Orbán or not?
The Hungarian electorate is very divided. It is very polarized. Half of the Hungarian electorate says it's better off and we are better if Orbán remains because he will keep us out of the war and so on. And the other half is desperate to see a change.
Mm-hmm. Now, the war is something, if we look at in 16 years, something relatively recent. I do want to just kind of ask, before we get into the whole angle with his touting big connections with Putin and Trump, what about Orbanomics? Has that been successful? I mean, if we're looking at, for instance, something very tangible like VAT, the highest in the European Union, almost 26%. Now, why is that? And is that good or bad for Hungary?
The VAT is 27%, and indeed it is the highest in the European Union, but it is just one of the indicators. The economy has been in recession for 4 years now. Orbán always points to the fact that Europe imposed sanctions on Russia, and that is the reason for the high inflation and for the recession. It doesn't sit with the people, so Péter Magyar is explaining all the time, no, it's bad economic policies. Look around in the region, other countries are not in that situation. So definitely this economic downturn, the high unemployment rates, high inflation, the decreasing of real wages have prompted Tisza's success. Many people feel, even former Fidesz voters, that they live worse off, and it is something Tisza and Péter Magyar can build on, besides the usual opposition group. So basically, obviously, Orbán has never had a full support. Almost half of the population has been critical of him for 16 years, but they were voting for different parties, and now they have one candidate, one party, one person who unites all the old opposition, and Tisza managed to get votes also from Fidesz on this economic message and economic situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's also what we've been seeing, right, in the last, not just weeks, but months. Orbán talking very much about the existential, the civilization, security, these big issues. But then on the economy, as you said, 4 years of recession, high unemployment. I mean, the ordinary Hungarian, will that click with them on Sunday? Will that be the defining issue, or will it be more grand geopolitics? What's going to be the defining issue in the voter's mind, in your opinion?
As I said, the voter is very, very divided. So Hungary is absolutely polarized. We live in two different realities. Fidesz managed to spread this existential threat among much of its electorate. This is nothing new, but it is now it has remained basically their only message that if Orbán loses, then Hungary will be a battlefield, and our money and our people will be drawn to Ukraine, and the world is falling apart, and so you need a very strong and leader, and Fidesz is the only safe choice. Whereas for many others, and it looks as you also mentioned in the polls, that for the majority, this narrative doesn't hold anymore. So they see that Orbán is rather the chaos and they want some sort of a functioning state. That is the main message of Magyar, that even geopolitically, he can bring more safety than Orbán can, more sovereignty in terms of independence from Russia, and the economy will be safer in his hands.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned sovereignty there. I mean, that's also something that we looked at this past week. I mean, we had high-profile visit. You had Vice President J.D. Vance in Budapest for 2 days. You had then accusations of meddling, not just by Vance against the EU, but the EU in a certain way talking about that of the United States. So how has this week impacted this election? What kind of, let's say, meaningful, if anything, impact has come from the Vice President's visit and these accusations of meddling and interference in the elections?
It is, okay, J.D. Vance is not Donald Trump, so that is a big blow for Orbán, because Fidesz has been promising and hoping for Donald Trump's visit for many months now. Also for J.D. Vance's visit, you can see also on the images, thousands of activists were taken out of the campaign for assisting. So basically, the people, instead of being on the ground, were listening to J.D. Vance. But when a journalist asked J.D. Vance how he would deal with Hungary in case Orbán loses the elections, surprisingly to many, he said that, well, we will still continue working with Hungary. So he didn't, he obviously said Orbán is the best candidate and dear Hungarians, please vote wisely. But still, he didn't project or didn't say that the good Hungarian-US relations depend on Viktor Orbán's person.
Mm-hmm. All right. And what of also the leaks of the phone conversations between the Hungarian and the Russian foreign minister? I mean, that's also been building over a while. Then also Orbán himself apparently offering himself at the disposal of Vladimir Putin. How has that moved people, if at all?
I mean, we will see on Sunday if it moves anyone at all. The fronts are so clear by now. So everybody, or almost everybody, has made their decisions. I don't see that any new thing can come out. For an opposition voter, obviously, it's a very strong message. And I assume that the Foreign Secret Services leaking all these conversations between Lavrov and Szijjártó, the Hungarian foreign minister, or between Putin and Orbán, are designed to influence Hungarian voters to see that if they vote for Orbán, then Hungary will be sidelined in the EU more, in the NATO even more, because Hungary is not a reliable partner, showing actually closer ties to Russia than was visible before. So all this submissive attitude, what Szijjártó and Orbán performed in these conversations, is very strong messages. But I don't see that it can move uncertain voters or Fidesz voters anymore. Everybody consumes the media from their own sources and is exposed to messages of one camp. Yeah, we will see on Sunday.
Yeah, and what will we see on Sunday? I mean, just generally, I mean, how it's going to go down. And we've also heard from some of the experts have said that the diaspora vote will be critical, but there's also might be issues with ballots that are sent out. So just give us your take of what Sunday will look like without really telling us the projection.
Yeah, thank you for not having to tell projections. The polls are showing a clear Tisza lead, over 20 or almost 20% or even more. So that should be a clear thing. However, 2 weeks before the elections, a documentary film was exposing institutionalized vote buying in the rural, very poor areas of Hungary. So we expect that hundreds of thousands of people are very much kept with money and with threats along Fidesz. Yes, the diaspora votes can be also crucial, both from the ballots coming from per letter from Romania, for instance. They will be counted days later. the same as the votes cast in embassies in Western Europe or in Poland. So if the results are very narrow in the evening, it means that probably we will not see the results. As you may know, 93 of the seats are given by party lists, and 106 of the seats according to single members constituencies. And in all cases where the difference, the margin is very small, there will be recounts. The loser can also put up legal action against the results or asking for recount. So one of the worst cases what I see for Hungary is that on Sunday evening we will not have clear results and still have to wait days for the final result.
All right, so it will be definitely a night where many, not just in Hungary, but across Europe, will pay attention. Look, thanks so much for all that. That was our guest here, Eszter Kováts, there from the University of Vienna. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.